Welcome. On this video we're going to explain here factoring trinomials. Trinomial is an expression, algebraic expression, in this case made out of three terms. We have an x squared here, we have a 5x, and we have a negative 24. Those are your three terms. Our goal is to rewrite this as a product of two binomials. Now, in order to do this, we're going to set up a diamond problem. So I just draw an X representing the diamond problem. The third term, the last term, goes in the top of the diamond problem. That's going to be the product of two numbers. The middle term, the 5, goes in the bottom of the diamond problem. That is going to be the sum of the two numbers. So now what we need to do is we need to find the two factors that when I multiply them, it gives me a product of negative 24. And these two numbers, when I add them together, gives me a sum of 5. So let's go ahead and try to find those. Now, we did this in a previous video, and we found that those two numbers are going to be negative 3 times 8. That gives me a product of negative 24. And when I have the negative 3 plus 8, that gives me a sum of 5. More detail on how to find the numbers here, the negative 3 and the 8, I refer you back to the video that explains how to solve diamond problems. So now we found the 3 and the 8. Now with this, we're going to write our two binomials that I'm going to multiply, and it will give me the same trinomial. So two binomials multiplied. Now, the first term is an x squared, so I'm going to start with an x here and an x there, because we know when I multiply this x times that x, that my first term after multiplication becomes the x squared. Now, the next two numbers, those are the numbers that we found as a solution for the diamond problem. So, negative 3, so minus 3, and a 8 plus 8. Now, this is the factored form of this trinomial. So when you have to factor a trinomial, they want you to take the trinomial that is three terms, and you write it as two products. So the product of x minus 3 times x plus 8 equals this trinomial. Now, to prove that, we're going to go ahead and multiply these out. So normally this is your final answer for factoring. Okay? And here's going to be a check to make sure you did it correctly. So we've reviewed in class these generic rectangles or a box, and we're going to multiply these out. So I get x and negative 3, I get the x and the positive 8. I'm going to multiply them out. X times x, that's the x squared. X times negative 3, negative 3x. Positive 8 times x gives me 8x. And positive 8 times negative 3, that makes a negative 24. Now we can write the product. We get an x squared. These two terms, they are like terms. We can combine those. That gives me a positive 5x. And then my minus 24. So that is the same trinomial as we started off with. So this product of binomials is the same as the trinomial we start off with. So once more time, the factoring trinomials, this is your final answer. This is the factored form of that trinomial. Let's do another one. So we've got x squared minus 3x minus 10. So you start off with a diamond problem. The last term, negative 10, goes in the top. The middle term, in this case the negative 3, goes in the bottom. So I'm looking for two numbers where the product is negative 10 and the sum is negative 3. Now I can already tell that 1 times negative 10, when I add those factors, is not going to give me negative 3. So I'm going to start with 2 times 5 would be 10, but I need a negative 10. So I need to make one of the two negative. I'm going to make the 2 negative here, because That gives me negative 10, and I notice that when I add these two together, I get a sum of, positive 3. So that didn't work very well, but it's close. I need negative 3. So we're going to try another pair. 2 times negative 5 is also a product of negative 10. But if I do 2 plus negative 5, that gives me a sum of negative 3. So my two numbers that I have to multiply to get negative 10 are 2 and negative 5, because those two give a sum of negative 3. So now I can go ahead and write the factored form. I've got an x squared, so I'm going to start with a term of x inside the parentheses, and then my two numbers are 2 and negative 5, so plus 2, so this 2, the answer that goes right there, and then negative 5 plus 5. So this is the factored form of x squared minus 3x minus 10. And you can, again, try to check your answer by using the box. But to save some time on this video, I'll let you do that yourself. Okay, then the last problem. This problem is a little bit more complex. It's x squared minus 12xy plus 32y squared. We're still going to do the same thing here though. We get a diamond problem. We're going to use the 32 from the third term, write it in the top. We're going to use the negative 12 from the middle term, write it in the bottom. So now we need to multiply and find two numbers that multiplied gives me 32, but added together a negative 12. So let's go ahead and try that. If I do 4 times 8, that gives me 32. But 4 times 8 gives me a product. 4 plus 8 gives me a product of 12. So I'm close here. If I make both factors negative, then my answer is still positive 32. And I think I just went off the screen there a little bit. Yeah. So I'll move it over here. So negative 4 times negative 8 equals 32. And if I add these together, I get a sum of negative 12. So we've got negative 4 and negative 8. Now, let's write our product, the two binomials here. Well, my first term is an x squared. X squared. I get that by multiply these two, I get the x squared. Now, if you notice, my last term is a y squared. The only way I'm going to get a y squared in the last term if I multiply y times y here in the second term of each binomial, and that gives you y squared. Now, it's just adding these numbers in. So the negative 4 goes over here, so minus 4y, and the negative 8 goes over there, minus 8y. Now to prove that this works, I'm going to go ahead and do the check here. So we're going to multiply them out. So to be clear, this is the factored form. This is the answer they're looking for when they ask you to factor a trinomial. This is simply a check. So we're going to multiply x minus 4y in the top, x minus 8y. We set it up on the side. The first box, x times x is x squared. X times negative 4y, negative 4xy. X times negative 8y, negative 8xy. And then in the last box here, we get negative 4 times negative 8 makes it 32. And then the y times the y makes the y squared. Now let's write that out. So we get the x squared. These two are like terms. They both have xy in there. So that makes negative 12xy. And then we have our positive 32y squared. And you see, after multiplying these two binomials that we found as the factored form, we end up with the same thing that we started off with.